Statements. They were echoed all weekend long. Now, notice the would-be speech police, they never name names. Because they can't. Now, which Republican official or candidate has ever condoned or in any way encouraged any type of violent assault? Can you start naming them? I can't.
I can.
She's a traitor to our country.
Now, while I understand the idea here is to say this on a network in which viewers couldn't care less about whether there is any substance to such a statement, but for those of us out with the boomer bubble, we like accountability.
Now, which Republican official or candidate has ever condoned or in any way encouraged any type of violent assault?
Okay, how about we start with the encouraging violence part? And since this segment comes in the wake of the vile and vicious attack on Speaker Pelosi's husband, Paul Pelosi. So let's hear what the well-known Republican official who has appeared on Fox countless times, Marjorie Taylor Greene, what about the time that she called for Pelosi to be tried for treason, a crime that she said is punishable by death?
She's a traitor to our country. She's guilty of treason. She took an oath to protect American citizens and uphold our laws. And she gives aid and comfort to our enemies who illegally invade our land. That's what treason is. Exactly. And by our law, representatives and senators can be kicked out and no longer serve in our government. And it's a crime punishable by death, is what treason is. Nancy Pelosi is guilty of treason, and we want her out of our government. She's held her seat of power for 32 years. She's 78 years old. She is dying in Congress. We are fed up with these corrupt politicians that hang on to their power just to make themselves rich.
Shall we move on? How about when Minority Leader of the Republican Party, Kevin McCarthy, had this to say on what he would like to happen if he happens to take Nancy Pelosi's place as Majority Leader.
I'll make just one promise to you. If we win the majority, which I know we're going to, you're all invited. If you come to this court, but more importantly, I want you to watch Nancy Pelosi hand me that gavel. Hard not to hit her with it, but I will back it down for American freedom. Thank you.
And of course, how can we talk about violence without the precious cult leader, Donald Trump himself? Didn't he encourage violence at a couple of his rallies?
I certainly don't incite violence.
Knock the crap out of him. Like to punch him in the face.
I don't condone violence, and I don't talk about violence.
I would have done well, but I would have been boom, boom, boom. I'll beat that. I don't know if I'll do the fighting myself or if other people will.
Maybe he should have been roughed up because it was absolutely disgusting what he was doing.
If you see somebody getting ready to throw a tomato, knock the crap out of him, would you? Seriously. Like to punch him in the face, I'll tell you. Try not to hurt him. If you do, I'll defend you in court. Don't worry about it. In the good old days, this doesn't happen because they used to treat them very, very rough. And when they protested once, you know, they would not do it again so easily. We become weak, we become weak.
And you know what? The audience swung back. And I thought it was very, very appropriate. The audience hit back. And that's what we need, a little bit more of.
But anyway, moving on to condoning violence.
If we flood the Capitol building, go inside. You cannot accuse me of insurrection.
The people who breached the Capitol on January 6th are being abused.
I mean, no Republican official would condone violence, right? Not even Ted Cruz, when in the hours after Paul Pelosi's attack, he decided instead of condemning the attack that he would quote tweet an unsubstantiated conspiracy theory that claimed a possible nudist from Berkeley was the assailant. Or what about this?
And the voters are getting ready to stand up again and said, we have had enough. Enough of Abigail Spanberger, enough of Joe Biden. And listen, I want to stop for a minute and listen, Speaker Pelosi's husband, they had a break-in last night in their house, and he was assaulted. There's no room for violence anywhere, but we're going to send her back to be with him in California. That's what we're going to go do. That's what we're going to go do.
Or even, and I know he's not exactly an official, I mean, he's not much of an anything really other than an unloved child clawing for his dad's attention. Don Jr. decided to share this today, basically celebrating a man fracturing an elderly man's skull as he tried to kidnap his political opponent.
Statements, they were echoed all weekend long. Now notice the would-be speech police, they never name names.
But the thing is, Laura Ingraham knows all of this. She knows her party has failed to condemn violence time and time again. She knows that they encourage it. Hell, the only time they actually talk about January 6th on that network is when they're either calling it a tourist visit or they're defending those that have been imprisoned as a result. They welcome it. I mean, we're merely days past since an unhinged terrorist tried to murder the husband of the Speaker of the House and have since learned that it was politically motivated.
Definitively say now this was obviously politically motivated?
Yes, it appears as though this was based on his statements and comments that were made in that house during his encounter with Mr. Pelosi, that this was politically motivated.
Instead of condemning this gross act of terror, Fox News and Republicans are doing somersaults to drudge up any other angle to deflect from it. The juxtaposition right now of the actual facts that we are learning about Pelosi's assailant and the lies and conspiracies we are hearing from Republican-based voters and officials is simply dizzying, but not surprising.
This November is Rowvember. MeidasTouch just released its brand new collection of Rowvember t-shirts and pins to let the country know what's at stake this upcoming midterm election. Go to store.meidastouch.com to grab yours. That's store.meidastouch.com.